What happens when love meets its darkest test? When hope faces violence and prayer becomes the only weapon left? Tonight, we dive into a story that will challenge everything you believe about forgiveness, transformation, and the mysterious power of faith. This is just another story about marriage. It's about the moment when heaven itself seemed to intervene in the most desperate of circumstances. In a small town in Georgia, Sarah Martinez lived in constant fear. Every day brought the possibility of another explosion, another bruise, another night wondering if she would see tomorrow. Her husband Mark had become a stranger, consumed by alcohol, rage, and a darkness that seemed to grow deeper with each passing month. But Sarah held on to something that defied all logic. She believed that prayer could change even the hardest heart. The cycle of violence had been escalating for 3 years. Mark would disappear for days, return drunk and furious, and unleash his anger on the woman who had once been the love of his life. Friends told Sarah to leave. Family begged her to call the police. Even her pastor suggested separation. But deep in her heart, Sarah felt called to stay and fight. Not with her fists, but on her knees. The breaking point came on a cold February night. Mark had been drinking heavily after losing his job, and his rage reached a level Sarah had never seen before. As he raised his hand to strike her, something extraordinary happened. Sarah didn't cower, didn't run. Instead, she looked him straight in the eyes and began to pray out loud. Not a quiet whisper, but a powerful declaration that seemed to fill the entire room with an otherworldly presence. God, I know you can reach even this man's heart, she prayed with tears streaming down her face. I know you can break through the darkness that has consumed him. Lord, show him who he really is. Show him the man you created him to be. As these words left her lips, Mark's hand froze in midair. His eyes widened as if seeing Sarah for the first time in years. Something was happening that neither of them could explain. What occurred next defies natural explanation. Mark later described feeling as if a warm light had suddenly flooded his consciousness, washing away years of anger, bitterness, and self-hatred in a single moment. He fell to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably, as memories of who he used to be came flooding back. The gentle man who had courted Sarah with flowers and poetry, who had dreamed of building a loving family, who had once believed in goodness. That man was somehow being resurrected right before their eyes. Sarah's prayer had become a catalyst for what can only be described as a miracle. Over the following weeks, Mark underwent a complete transformation. He quit drinking immediately, sought counseling, and began attending church with a humility that amazed everyone who knew his previous attitude toward faith. But more importantly, he started the long journey of rebuilding trust with the woman whose faith had literally saved his soul. The healing wasn't instant or easy. Trust, once shattered, requires patience and consistency to rebuild. Sarah had to work through her own trauma, learning to separate the man Mark was becoming from the man who had caused her so much pain. They entered couples therapy, where they discovered that Mark's violence had stemmed from his own childhood abuse, a cycle that Sarah's prayer had miraculously broken. Mark became a living testimony of transformation. He began speaking at men's groups about domestic violence, sharing his story with a vulnerability that touched hearts and opened minds. He would often say, "I was a dead man walking until my wife's prayer brought me back to life." His transformation was so complete that even skeptics could undeny that something profound had occurred in their home that night. The ripple effects of Sarah's faithful prayer extended far beyond their marriage. Their story began inspiring other families trapped in cycles of abuse and addiction. Sarah started a prayer group for women in similar situations, teaching them that sometimes love means staying and fighting spiritually, while other times love means having the courage to leave. She emphasized that her story wasn't a formula. Every situation is unique, and safety must always be the priority. Today, 15 years later, Mark and Sarah's marriage stands as a powerful testimony to the transformative power of faith, forgiveness, and divine intervention. They've counseled hundreds of couples, always emphasizing that while prayer can move mountains, it must be coupled with practical action, professional help, and sometimes difficult decisions. Their story reminds us that miracles still happen, but they often require tremendous courage from those willing to believe in the impossible. What can we learn from Sarah's incredible story? Perhaps that love's greatest power isn't in its gentleness, but in its refusal to give up on the human soul. That sometimes our prayers become the very hands of God, reaching into the darkness to pull someone back into the light. And that transformation, no matter how impossible it seems, is always within the realm of possibility when heaven meets earth in the heart of someone who refuses to stop believing. Have you ever witnessed a transformation that defied explanation? Has prayer ever changed a situation in your life that seemed hopeless? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone needs to hear today. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe for more incredible testimonies of faith, hope, and miraculous transformations. And remember, no situation is too dark for the light to penetrate, and no heart is too hard for love to soften.